Dr. Levis, thank you for being here with me today. On behalf of the PSLLT community, I would like to thank you so much. And you are the person who officially started PSLLT conference with the great support of a lot of other scholars as well in the field. And you're still very active in organizing the conference every single year. So therefore, I would like to ask you some questions on behalf of everyone who has been attending to PSLLT for many years since it started. Okay, so what is the story of PSLLT? How did it start? And what are some interesting information pieces about it? Can you give us some historical background of it?
It started in 2009, but really in 2008 when I was in on a sabbatical in Vancouver, and I was working with Murray Monroe and Ron Thompson, and also Tracy Derwing. And a lot of questions had come up about how we were developing as a field, and I thought at one point that one of the things that I could do was create a conference so that when we went to conferences like AAAL or to TESOL or other conferences, pronunciation sessions were few and far between. And we would meet together as people who are interested in pronunciation. And I thought, what if we had a conference that we could do just on pronunciation? And so the idea came in 2008, and the first conference then came in 2009. And Wayne Dickerson and Tracy Derwing were our first plenary speakers. And we had about 65 people who came to Iowa in September. And it was a great start to a conference.
Well, it's a nice time to be in Iowa in September.
Yes, it is.
That's
one
great.
of the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Well, speaking of that 65 people who attended the first one, my second question is, how did PSLLT evolve in years? Like, is there a difference between the number of participants you had in the first couple of years and now? Or do you have more people coming from different places of the world now?
There's a huge difference in numbers. We had that 65 the first year, and I think the last time when we were in Arizona, it was 261. So it's gone up 4 times. But we've always had a remarkably international conference. That first year, we had people from 15 different countries and about 20 different states who came, and that has been consistent. I think when we were in Arizona, we were up to probably 25 different countries and in many more states than we had in the first year. So it has always stayed international, and it's always stayed quite wide-ranging in the number of people who would come.
That sounds wonderful. So speaking of this growing number of attendees, can you say that there's an established PSLLT community now?
I think so. What we find is that probably each year about half of the people who attend have been before, and about half are new. And so we have this kind of consistent group that come, both newer scholars and people who have been in the field a lot longer. And then we see new people from different parts of the world, or different parts of the countries, since PSLLT is both Canadian and American, each year. And we do have people who come one year and then come back 4 or 5 years later. And I think that shows this kind of consistency as well as a growing appeal of the conference.
Right. That sounds great. So, what are some things that you get out of PSLLT conference as an already accomplished scholar in the field, and what makes you keep helping organize and attending the conference almost every year? Well, every year for you.
Every year for me, it's kind of my baby, so that's why um, I keep doing it. But what I get out of the conference each year is I get to see old friends, and that's always nice. But I also get to meet new people who are coming into the field, and people who are doing really, really interesting work in all kinds of languages. So I really enjoy the kind of social connections to all of the other people in the field, and getting to meet people that I probably wouldn't meet otherwise if we didn't have this conference.
Right, right. PSLLT is my favorite, even including those big conferences, because you get to see more people, you get to talk to them, learn more about what they do.
Well,
So,
and
do you have it?
actually, if you're interested in pronunciation too,
Yes,
you get to see pronunciation stuff every presentation.
that is true. Yes, that's another reason. Whereas at other big conferences, you have to look for the pronunciation sessions in a big
Right.
book, right? Okay. Yes. So, do you have any suggestions for novice scholars and practitioners who are attending to PSLLT for the first time this year? Are there any things that they should not miss?
Um, don't miss the plenary. Um, enjoy there are three main types of presentations that are consistent at PSLLT. There are what are called oral presentations. Those are the ones that someone is presenting in a given time slot. There are poster presentations, which have always been considered equivalent to oral presentations in PSLLT. And there are teaching tips.
Mm-hmm.
And the teaching tips are for those of us who come into pronunciation from a pedagogical point of view. They are the connection between the research and the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I would say you should be really paying attention to the teaching tips, because we're going to have more opportunities for you to see all kinds of different things. They take about 7 or 8 minutes. So if you spend an hour and a half, you can look at 8 or 9 different teaching tips. And this is really cool. And you can find almost everything you want. Almost everything that we have seen at PSLLT through the years is good. So pick the ones that are most interesting to you. If you know of people who are presenting that you have read their work, see what they have to offer.
Right. All right. So yes, that sounds like a good advice. So this next question is a little bit like a tricky question. So you said PSLLT is like your baby, and when you pronounce the name of your baby the first time, and since then you say PSLLT. However, and also because this is a pronunciation-based conference, I keep hearing that people pronounce the name of this conference very differently in different parts of the world. What do you think about this?
No, only in
And
one part of the
I
world.
also heard that there's an abstract about how to pronounce the name of the conference.
There are two ways to pronounce it. One is as an initialism, PSLLT. The other is as an acronym, and it comes out as PSLLT.
Mm-hmm.
And this was created by Ron Thompson, and it may have been all other people who were part of the board as well. So I called it the Canadian dialect pronunciation, but
Mm-hmm.
it may be on the ascendancy. I don't know. They may win out in the end.
Right,
be
right.
one of those times that the Canadian dialect was stronger than the American dialect on this.
Mm-hmm. Is that true that somebody put an abstract about this, like did a study on how to pronounce the name of the conference?
Well, somebody did, but it was not approved. I think I rejected it.
You did? Okay. All right. We'll see how this will affect the way that the name of the conference will be pronounced in the future as well. Well, anything else you would like to add? Anything that you would like to talk about?
Well, this is our first virtual
Mm-hmm.
conference. In some ways, I hope it's our last virtual conference, because seeing people together and being able to sit down and talk with new people, with old people who have been to the conference before, is one of the best things. We've always made this conference one where the established scholars and the newer scholars can interact a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that will work with a virtual conference, but I look forward to being back together in another year in the Niagara region of Canada.
Right. We will see how it will work at the virtual conference. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Levis, for this lovely interview. And we're looking forward to seeing you at the virtual conference coming up in like 2 months.
Yes. Be
Well,
great.
thank you. Yep.
Thanks.